Hello and welcome to the Drummergy Podcast, episode 119. Can you believe that? 119 Tuesdays. Actually, yeah, 119 weeks because it used to be on Thursdays when I first got started. Today's topic for March 25th of 2025 is going to be on how to become a popular musician. And so we'll get into that here in a moment. Not really any silly holidays to report today, although it is International Waffle Day. And it seems like I've said it's International Waffle Day a few times this year already. So I don't know if you can have multiple holidays that are the same throughout the year. I don't know. Maybe you can. It is also National Medal of Honor Day, which is kind of cool. Now, this is coming from a guy that knows very little about the military, okay? Even though I have family members who are veterans, and one of which is my dad. And we went to the Warhawk Air Museum last Friday, met up with my dad, me, the missus, and Jude, and walked around and saw all that stuff. I was really blown away about, with the history right there available in your hands to see and look at. Boy, my grammar. At any rate, it's really super interesting. One thing, like they had a display of the front of an airplane where a guy would get inside and operate guns, this big clear thing that went around him. I don't know how these people fit inside of these little compartments. It looks like my kids would even have trouble getting in them. And, I don't think in like the World War II era, we were carrying around a lot of extra weight like we do currently. And, thinking about the ages of those guys in the military being in their late teens and early 20s, obviously most people at that age range are smaller people. And then you look at the uniforms and see how small they are too. It was, I don't know. It was just really interesting to see. So it was fun to go out there and meet up with my dad and check out the Warhawk Air Museum. Thanks to Scott Alexander from the band Dishwalla being here last week as a guest. That was a good hang. And he and I were talking before we went live about what we should talk about. And he told me that other interviews and podcasts and things that he's been on, or different people in his band, is that they don't talk at all until they're actually recording or going live, because then they miss some of the excitement of what is happening or what could be talked about. And that's the same thing that happened with me and Anthony. Is we sat here for like 40 minutes talking about the good old days and kept thinking we should talk about that, and then we didn't talk about those things. Of course, we had plenty to talk about. Also, if you are on the YouTube live stream right now or watching that on the replay, I am uploading all the past episodes of this show. Like I said, this is episode 119. I think I started streaming like to YouTube and Facebook at the same time, like around episode 110, somewhere in there. And so I have a lot of back catalog to upload. And the reason being is Facebook is going to start deleting everything that's 30 days or older starting the end of June. And so I got to download all that video and re-upload it to my YouTube channel. So those on YouTube are going to get bombarded with these past episodes. But good stuff. And then they'll start being uploaded to Spotify, Yahoo as well. Let's see, what else am I missing? Oh, please like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. That helps me a lot. The numbers do seem to be going up considerably this year since I've been doing this on YouTube as well. So thank you to those folks. Let's see what else. So I had kind of this milestone weekend. Like I said, we went to the Warhawk Air Museum and walked around. So when I'm walking, I start to get tired pretty easily. recovering from this broken leg is a long process, but I did fix my wife's car. I had to replace the alternator in it, which required me to get down on the ground and lay on my back under the car a couple different times, and that was a little tricky to get up and down from those positions. And then for the first time in over 7 months, I started driving again, which was great. It's nice to be able to do that. Even drove my pickup, which is a manual transmission, so you got to operate the clutch and the brake and all of that stuff, and that seemed to go better than expected. I was happy about that. And then I mowed my lawn, which I don't have a big lawn, but mowing the lawn nonetheless was some really great exercise to get the leg moving. And I climbed a ladder. Believe it or not, our exhaust fan in our main bathroom of the house stopped working. So I had to replace the motor in it and climb the ladder up there. So all of this stuff, recovering from a broken leg, it's, I went to physical therapy last Thursday, and the guy said that I'm pretty much right on track with my recovery, like what to be expected and how all that is going. So, yeah. It's all good stuff, but I do get super tired. It's at least, I'm able to do more stuff. The producer's here. She says at least it was just the backyard. Yeah, well, the producer did a major cleaning up of the front yard a while ago, and it stayed pretty clean all this time. We have a locust tree in our front yard, and it seems for many years it produced none of these seed pods, and then all of a sudden it started producing seed pods, and then as the tree gets bigger, a gazillion seed pods, and they're a real pain to keep on top of cleaning up. And then sometimes they hang on through the winter, and it seems like no matter what, you're constantly picking up seed pods. So, but the producer, she produced me a clean front yard because I was not able to do that. So, yeah. I just mowed the backyard. Thanks for calling me out, Mary Fisher. Oh, I stumbling on my words. Playdrums.com is a website that is a resource for drum teachers and for finding what am I trying to say? Trying to find some drum lessons. They have some little clips of drum lessons on this website, like by Simon Phillips and Tommy Igoe and man, I'm spacing, but a bunch of like A-list drummer guys like that are on this website. But it's an invitation only situation to be added to their list of drummers across the country, and they go through this vetting process to make sure you're not some kind of creep and that you have an established teaching business, and seeing what kind of content you post on social media to kind of get a feel for the kind of person you are. And I was added to that list for Fred Rock School of Drumming. So that's kind of a big deal, at least to me, in that realm of teaching. So I was really honored to be added to that list of drum teachers. And there's not a lot on there yet, but like I said, it's like an invitation only deal. So I'm excited about that and seeing if that helps me grow my business even more with teaching. And then let's see, anybody playing Treefort, any of my musician friends watching that are playing Treefort or going to Treefort this week here in Boise. Let's see. I'll take a sip of coffee. I myself have never been to Treefort. I know of several bands, and it just seems like it's stylistically isn't my scene. Maybe it is. I don't pay that close attention to it, and of course, it's continued to grow and be bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So, I don't know a lot about it, but I know it's a big deal. Just curious if anybody's going. Yeah, so that's all the up-to-date kind of things. I do have a slight head cold, and I don't know if it's a legitimate head cold or if it was an allergy induced situation, because physically I feel pretty much the same. I feel fine. Um, I do have a runny nose occasionally, but I'm not stuffed up. And then I have like this mild headache. I don't know. It's kind of weird. So it might have been stemming from mowing, because it wasn't until after I mowed the backyard that this started to come on. I had like a mild tickle in my throat, and now that tickle's gone. So I don't know what's happening. I'm hoping it's just an allergy thing, and it'll be done. I can't think of the last time I was actually legitimately sick. I don't know. I can't remember. Everything just kind of runs together. So anyway, there you go. I'm going to get to today's discussion on how can I become a popular musician. How can I become a popular musician? I think there's probably a lot of questions in that and a lot of possible answers. When I was sitting on the couch last night, and it was getting pretty late, and I said, I asked Mary, I said, what should I talk about? And she said, I don't know. So then I started Googling, like, what do people want to know about musicians, or what do musicians want to know about what's happening in their careers and those kind of things. And so I stumbled across an article that said, how can I become a popular musician? And that caught my eye. And so it was really geared specifically towards singers, but I think the information could easily be applied to anybody that plays any kind of instrument. Now, it seems a little, what would you call it? Self-indulgent, maybe, to say that you want to become a popular musician. Well, what is a popular musician? To me, a popular musician is somebody that's doing something that is engaging and exciting, and they gain popularity because a lot of people are starting to really enjoy what they do, like the music that they are. It doesn't matter if you're in a cover band or an original band, like how well are you putting those pieces together and presenting that, and having an audience that's really into that's going to really respond and then stay with you for such a long time as well. I think, when Scott Alexander was here last week, we talked about, like, most bands have like this arc to their career where they start out, and then they've got all this stuff going on, and maybe it's over like a 10-year period. And then for the next 10 years or even 15 years, they kind of disappear. And then nostalgia comes along, and they become popular again and revitalize their careers. So where does all of that stem from? I'm not saying this to convince anybody of anything. Chris McCall has a great question. Let's see Chris McCall's question. Chris McCall says, so do popular and successful go hand in hand? I think in one direction that it probably does, Chris. I think that if you are popular, you're probably going to be successful. Now that could also bring into the picture, like, how good are you at being a business person? How good are you at negotiating? Because that talks about getting paid and all of those kind of things. At least for me, that's the case. But I think that you could be a really successful musician and not necessarily be that popular. So I think that's a really good question, and it depends on what circles you're running in. Let's take, for example, the New York Philharmonic. That's the only thing that pops into my head. Like, how big is that orchestra? And you have a whole bunch of individual people that are in there that probably nobody knows, but the group itself is pretty popular and successful. And then those people get paid to do their part. So I don't know. I hope that helps answer that question. Or maybe it was a little theoretical, right? So becoming a popular musician. you're doing something that is attracting people to like you, I guess. We live in this social media culture, and I'm I don't say guilty of it, but I am one of those people that watch the metrics, like how many people watch this show when it actually happens live, how many people watch it throughout the week, how many people are watching on YouTube, and how long do they spend watching it. And I use those numbers to maybe sort of adjust how I do things, and so on and so forth. But so let's get down to, how do I become a popular musician? Number one is start with training. So, like I said, these kind of bullet points were directed mostly at singers, but I think easily applied to other musicians. I think because it was an article about singers, even for me, are like the focal point of the band. And I think a band needs two things: a really killer drummer and a really killer singer. Now, I don't mean that the other ones aren't so important, but the drummer tends to be the guy that's holding the whole thing together, and then the person that's singing is kind of the one representing the entire band as a whole. Even though maybe the guitar player and singer might have more notoriety or visibility to an audience. Miguel, how's it going, man? Miguel, you and I still have not made music together. I wonder if that'll ever change. Seems like every time I need a bass player, you're involved in 12 different projects, which that's good for you. That's good for you. So Miguel being a bass player, they don't tend to be the first ones that are looked at either. I'm reading Miguel's comments here. He's doing good, and asks how I am. I know it's a shame that we haven't played together yet. Yeah. So, okay, number one that I was getting to is start with training. So if you're a singer and you really enjoy singing, take lessons. If you're, whatever instrument that you play, whether it be voice or drums or guitar or whatever it is, take lessons with somebody who's really qualified to teach, who's going to inspire you, and not just say, Mary says he's a popular bass player. Yes, he is a popular bass player. Good point. Thanks, producer, for getting that, straighten me out on that. Yes, Miguel is a really great bass player, and he's a good dude too. So he is popular. He's a popular guy. I tried to get after him when he first moved to town, and it didn't work out for whatever reason. At any rate, take lessons, get well trained from somebody that can really train you on what to do to be proficient at your instrument or to be really great at singing. Jared Halleck is here. And Jared, if I would have known that you were going to pop up, I would have had my little Jared Halleck face cutout. That would have been funny. And Jared, I'm going to invite you on the show. We're going to get you scheduled as soon as you return from your expedition that you're on. That would be awesome. So yeah, get training, get lessons. I would say, especially, I kind of get lost in these circles of thoughts, but the singer being the first thing that you notice, or that's representing the band. If that singer is really, really great, that's going to get people's attention. If the singer's mediocre or not very good, people will look at that and go, "Huh, that was cool. Okay, where do you want to go?" They're not going to be willing to check that out for very long. But if the singing is really, really great, that wows people. It wows me, at least. Number two, get in a band, join a band. You got to get out of the garage or the bedroom or wherever it is that you're working on your craft. You got to get together with other people and start making music together. That seems like kind of a no-brainer deal. But like I said, this article that I read was really geared towards singers, so it was telling the singers to become a part of a singing group, like a choir or something of that nature. When Mary first started singing, I think I've told the story before. When we got married, I had no idea that Mary could sing. I'm not sure Mary knew she could sing. Or if she did, she didn't tell anybody. And she was taking a shower and I heard her in the bathroom singing and I was blown away. I was like, I went busting in the bathroom and like, what are you doing? It sounded so good. And so I really encouraged her to join a singing group. And so at that time, the church she grew up in, at Whitney Methodist, they had a women's chorale group and they would do quite a bit of stuff, a church obviously, but some stuff around town. And then they would go on these tours. Like they went to Canada, they went to Scotland, I think that's where they went. I can't remember where all they went, but she traveled and went and saw some really cool stuff. So she, I really encouraged her to start singing and to get comfortable singing because I thought, my gosh, she has this gift that she should be using that gift. And so that's, at least in my view, how Mary got started singing more and more and more. And was, I recognized that she had that talent and then encouraged her to get in a group. So that's like what this list says, was to get in a group. Chris says, I love that hat, by the way, such a great band. Yeah, Everyone Loves a Villain from Spokane, Washington. I know George Silva the most in that band, the guitar player. And but the rest of the band, super cool guys and really, really good band. And all of those guys play in multiple bands. So they've always got something going on. Miguel, she is the singer in Casio Dreams, the all 80s pop tribute band. Yep, that's her world now, is doing that. I was waiting for James Harrison to be here and weigh in. Let's see here. This might go hand in hand kind of with what Chris was saying. I think popular is based on so many factors. Some work for it, some fall into it. I personally don't consider popular to be coinciding with ability or talent, but more about exposure. Yeah, James, I think I could agree with all of that. Yeah. So that comes back to, so people here, I think some people that tune in regularly might know James, but James puts a lot of interesting content out on Facebook and Instagram. One recently was talking about overrated or underrated drummers, and I think that kind of goes along with ability doesn't necessarily mean that you're popular or that because you have all this ability that you're popular. I think people just become popular because they're really good at this one thing and they live in a narrow little lane of what they do, but they can't really exist very well outside of that. Meaning, could they go from this hard rock? Well, it's like from a drummer's perspective, I guess. They go from a hard rock smash them, crash them type situation to playing country where you have a totally different feel? Like, can they easily drift over into this other lane and still be really good at that? Yeah, I think there's bands that have become popular that I just shake my head and think, how or why? And now I think a lot of that has to do with, maybe it's just not my thing, right? So because of that, I might not pay attention to them. I was never really a Green Day fan until recently, or I would say over the last year, because I have students who kind of lived in that era of growing up and Green Day was the thing. And so they really, really like Green Day. And so then they want to learn Green Day songs. And so we started learning Green Day songs, and I go, oh, you know what? This is actually pretty good stuff. But at the time that they kind of appeared on the scene, I was like, I don't get it. Yes, Miguel, you should go see Casio Dreams for sure. But yeah, getting into a group and playing music, that's an important step. And then develop your musicianship. I remember when I started drumming when I was 10, took lessons immediately. I was just in love with music that much. And then all through high school, I took drum lessons from 3 different teachers out at American Music in Caldwell. And I took lessons I never stopped taking lessons. It's like they stopped teaching. And so then the next guy would come in. And then when they didn't have teachers anymore, that's when Don Christensen, who owned American Music, said, there's our new drum teacher, was pointing at me. I was like, okay. So that's a whole nother story on where my teaching experience began. But all that to say is when I felt like I was developing a pretty good skill set through junior high and high school, because that's all I cared about was drumming. And I think that James Harrison is probably pretty similar in that dedication. And so I think you kind of realize that you are developing a certain skill set and you're looking for people to share that with, to play music with. And so I would ask different people that I was either in band with, that I knew played guitar or bass or sang in the choir or something, that I would start trying to put these groups together just to see what would happen. And nobody ever seemed to be as driven or cared about it as much as I did. And so a lot of times it was very disappointing to get together and play. It wasn't until I've kind of got into the Boise music scene and there was already established bands that needed a drummer. One of those were Tuesday's Child. And I auditioned for that band and started playing with them. And then that's how I ended up in Midline and so on and so forth. But it's like when you're younger and you get together and you start playing, it's like you're all learning your instruments at the same time, more or less, and figuring out how that works. And then expanding into different genres and having a larger knowledge of music and what you can do. I think the next one is probably my favorite thing that they brought up in this article is stage presence. Stage presence. No matter what you do on stage, no matter what kind of music you're playing on stage, you're on stage, and however you conduct yourself, however you're dressed, however you act, that's your stage presence. Now, I grew up in the MTV era, which I'm so thankful for. The MTV era had all these larger than life videos that were put out. I liked some of the more movie type. Blue Flashes is here. Some of the music videos were kind of like a little movie or something, but the ones that I really, really liked were the ones that showed bands playing live. There were a bunch of clips of the band performing, and these huge stages, big lighting rig, sound system, thousands and thousands of people in an arena just had this larger, and they look like they're having their time of their life in this music video. And then you go see their concert and be like, yeah, that's what I saw on MTV. That's just like, I was always in awe of that. And so I think that had a big influence on me on stage presence and stage performance. The drummers of the 80s had a lot of flash and stick tricks, which I still do, but they're more not from a look at me perspective anymore, but it's just become how I play. I guess it became part of the drum beat and how I move. So, and then of course my students have gone and watched YouTube videos of me playing, and so they sit in here and they're flipping their sticks and trying to twirl and do all of these things, which I'm like, oh, thank you. we're gonna keep the performance part of drumming alive and doing well. So, but stage presence, how does that affect on your popularity? If you, again, this was like really directed at singers, this article, but I think it applies to everybody in the band. Is the singers, the first thing that people are looking at or listening to, and if they're ignoring the audience and staring at their shoes, or worse yet, my personal favorite pet peeve is looking at an iPad because they just don't care to learn the lyrics. I'm like, they're so engaged with the iPad and they're so engaged with the floor, and they're just not engaging with the crowd whatsoever. I'm checking out. I'm done. Miguel says, I fight RBF all night every time I'm in survival mode in sub gigs. Oh yeah, I could understand that. But it's just like same goes for sheet music. Yeah. I think if you're subbing on a gig and you need charts, that's different to me than if you've been in the band for years, you've played those same songs hundreds of times. Like, why are you still looking at an iPad? Why are you still so glued to that chart? I don't get it. Now, I will say that I've never had a problem memorizing music. I've never struggled with that ever. Excuse me. Now I know that some other people do. I used to play with this guitar player friend of mine who was just phenomenal. And he always had a music stand with his book and these charts. And Mary says, resting bass face. Yep, that's it. There you go, Miguel. Resting bass face. I asked him, because we had played in this cover band for a couple years together, and I said, do you really look at that? He's like, yeah, I like even the songs that really, really well. He's like, yeah, I just kind of became dependent on it. And I said, well, what would it take for you not to look at that? And he says, I don't know if I could ever get away from it. Then we ended up playing in a different band, and the band leader said, no music stands on stage, no iPads, none of this. And that was like, if that was going to happen, you weren't going to be in the band. And so it was just a mindset thing at that point to ditch the music stand and get rid of the charts and to just commit to learning those songs and remembering them. So, but yeah, that's part of the presentation of the stage too. Is like, well, let's get all this stuff on music stands and iPads, and I'm on a kick with the iPad thing. Because I'm an expert, right? Yes, I know everything. Excuse me. That's part of that little head cold thing I got going on. What has Miguel said? Let's see here. Miguel says, I find I can think for myself when my face is in that stuff during a musical situation other than sub situations. You can't think for yourself in that situation when you're stuck to the book, right, Miguel? Yeah. The better you know the song, I think the more engaging you can be with your bandmates, and the more engaging you can be with the crowd, and the more comfortable that you actually play, because you just know where you're going. You just know what it's supposed to be. Let's see what else. Miguel says, seems like people are not retaining because they maybe don't beat pavement on practice. I'm not sure I understand that sentence completely. But at any rate, yeah, just getting away from that stuff makes a big deal. And I would just like the substitution for that, I think, is if you're filling in if I'm filling in, I will have my set list made out with all my tempos. And a lot of times it only takes like a couple seconds of hearing a song. Everything comes back to memory, what I'm supposed to do. And if there's a very specific drum beat, I might write out the skeleton or the main drum beat for that song. Like my shorthand for that is, if I write the count out, I just write the count out. Like, let's just say a really simple drum beat, like 1, 2, 3, and 4. So the kick drum's playing on 1 and then 3 and the snares on 2 and 4. I would write 1 low, 2 high, 3 and low, and then 4 high. And then above that, I might write 8s because I'm going to play 8s on the hi-hat. And that's all I need to do. I don't even write the drum beat out. I'll just write the count out as the drum beat would be. Miguel says, I mean, like, just practice to a recording in your room on repeat. Yeah. Yep. Practice, dedicate, care about what you're going to do. I guess on a little side note that made me think of this, because I talked to my my sister on Sunday, and she's at her church. She is, I don't know if she's the worship leader, but I think she's in some capacity kind of in charge of the band at her church. And she asked me, she said, how do I get the drummer to actually learn the songs? And I said, well, what do you mean? And she says, well, I'll try to talk. They have a couple guys that rotate in and out. And I said, well, what do you mean by that? She said, well, there's certain important parts in songs that have a certain drum thing that happen. And every time it gets missed, and then I'll go talk to him like, hey, can you please learn this? And I notice this more with the church band thing is they start prefacing or making excuses why they don't give it as much attention. One, it's volunteer, so typically those people aren't getting paid, and they don't have enough time in the week to learn them. And I thought, well, because I've played in the church music thing for a long time, a lot of times it's 3 or 4 songs. Rarely is it more than that, maybe 5. And then of those songs, you play those songs a lot over and over and over. It's not like you have 5 new songs every week. It's like maybe you're adding a new song once every month or a couple weeks. Make a book and give it to your drummers. Is that you're saying that for my sister, Jared? Make a book and give it to your drummers. I think that's a really great idea. Yeah. So here's kind of, I told my sister, I said, I have a thought about that. And this isn't to be preachy to anybody at all. Okay. Is that, yeah, that's what he says. Make a book and give it to your drummers. One is like, do you respect yourself enough to learn a song correctly so that you can play it with success? Do you have enough self-discipline for yourself to do that? I have trouble working in situations where people don't care. I really do. It just eats at me like a cancer. But I also told my sister, I said, I believe that every single person is given a God-given talent to do something. And if your God-given talent is to play drums or sing or whatever, and not only that, you're using that talent in church, then why aren't you giving your best? Why? Why would you? Why? I don't. To me, that doesn't make sense to not give your best. I just want to play my best every single time I play, regardless of what the situation is. Just like I said, from a personal respect or a self-discipline point of view, is to really deliver and like elevate the situation. If you come in and you're the one that's prepared and you're ready to go, then you're elevating that situation. And then if everybody had that same mindset, just imagine how good the whole overall thing is going to be if everybody cared to be really, really good at what they do. So Yeah, Jared, actually that's a really great idea to make a book. I know when I played at First Baptist Church downtown Boise for a long time, and when I first started there, the music leader, she actually did give everybody a book. Now, I'm not a fan of looking at books, but she went out of her way to kind of make no excuses for anybody. Like, if you just showed up and played, here's the chart. If you know how to read a chart, you're going to play this and you're going to be fine. Kind of a deal. Yeah, I don't understand where people don't have enough time in their day, or their week rather, to learn a song that's 3 minutes long. And those songs in church are such lather, rinse, repeat things. They're pretty generic. they're not it's not like learning a Rush song or anything like that. So, but I think I got a little distracted on stage presence. When you are on stage and you just look like you're bored. I saw a guy playing, and he's playing a tambourine at the front of the stage, and playing the tambourine. I saw him go, this huge big yawn. I'm like, that guy looks like he would rather be anywhere. He looks like he'd rather be home mowing the lawn. Yeah, let's see. What does James says? I think that there are musicians that learn or copy songs and others that just play along. James, do you mean like they're just kind of playing along willy-nilly at what they're doing? I think that you can play songs, you don't have to know them exactly hit for hit. You don't have to get every single little thing in them, but you do want it to sound like what you're doing belongs there. But yeah, I think Miguel says it's because he didn't pick the cowbell. That's why he was yawning. He was playing the tambourine. Yeah, or I've seen drummers play and you look back at them and it looks like somebody just told them that their dog died or something. They look like they're either sad or mad. When I'm drumming, I'm having the time of my life. I'm smiling. I'm having it's like I don't know. Some of that was drilled into me. Like I said, I grew up in the MTV era, and when you saw MTV videos, and it didn't matter what band it was, but they looked like they're having their time of their life. They didn't look like they were bored. They didn't look like they were tired or sad or mad. It just like I wanted to live in that world. And then when I was 20, I went on tour with a band from Florida, and they told you what to do. And if you didn't do what they said, you went home. So working for Showcase was a big, huge learning experience for me on not only how the music business worked, but on stage presence and performance, is to have that larger than life thing, to smile and have a good time. Even if you aren't having a good time, the audience is still watching. And so it's just, man, put on a face if you have to. Miguel says, I saw it live at Cherry Fest. You're great all around live, man. Thank you. Yeah, I really enjoy playing. Now I think part of that also comes back to I know the songs. And like I said a few moments ago, if you really know the songs, it's really freeing. You don't have to worry so much about every little part because it's just ingrained. It's that muscle memory is going to happen. It's going to kick in, and you're going to do what you're supposed to do. Let's see. Yeah, James says, I meant playing along doesn't mean you know the song. Yeah, exactly. They're just up there guessing. And I think that's what my sister's experiencing with the current situation at her church, is that they're not putting in any effort whatsoever to be prepared. And it's discouraging because if the whole band knows you're going this way and the drummer has no clue and he's trying to drive you off the cliff, it's that's got to be frustrating. But yeah, stage presence, just, think about some of your favorite singers, your favorite frontmen, like how engaging are they with the audience? Those are the kind of people I like to play with. I think Anthony Fagiano, my singer in Midline, is a really good frontman. He's a really good singer. And Anthony's one of those guys that kind of lives in a narrow lane, I think, of vocals, and he knows this. He's got his voice that fits within a certain parameter, so he's not jumping around to different things, and he doesn't want to either. But he's really, really good at being the front man for Midline and singing that way. And that's part of his DNA, is being the front man for Midline. Moving on from stage presence, Mary says, let's highlight this comment because this one's good. I wouldn't invite that drummer back to play if he didn't improve. Yes, I agree with that 100%, especially since she's already talked to him on several occasions on, like, can you please learn this material? But I do get tired of the excuses of, well, it's volunteer, it's not a paid thing or whatever. It's like, man, if you had any self-respect for yourself as a musician, why would you just, it's just like James' comment above yours, Mary says, I meant playing along doesn't mean you know the song. Yeah. Yep. I would say you're either in or you're out. You're either in or you're out. Yeah. Like I said, I don't have I have very little patience for playing with people who don't know what they're supposed to do. The other thing is to take advantage of opportunities. I think if you present yourself in a certain way that you know the songs and you play really well, play your instrument really well, people will take note, and then you start getting calls to be more involved with stuff, just like Miguel. Miguel plays in several different bands. And that's always been the case, I think, for Miguel since he's moved here, that at least that I'm aware of. I don't think that I'm wrong in that, but I think there's certain musicians in town who and I'm not only talking about Boise, just wherever you live, where you're watching this, you start to see in-demand musicians, and they're getting offered to do all these different things. And it's like, take advantage of many of those opportunities as you're as you're willing to or comfortable enough. But I think that helps get you into the circle or orbit, if you will, of people who are even way better than you. And that's where I want to live. I like to try to play with people who challenge me to play better. Let's see. Let's see what Miguel says here. Miguel, I'm so glad you're here today. Miguel says, I feel like you're only good as your weakest link. Yeah, that's true too. And it drives me nuts, that situation that you just mentioned. It literally takes all your hard, detailed work and kind of gives your work the middle finger. Yeah. Yep. So if you're putting in all this work and nobody else is, it's like, man, if I knew all I had to do was be mediocre, then why would I put in all this work? I could just suck like everybody else. Let's see. So getting involved with many things, as you can. Utilize technology. Now, I don't believe this includes the iPad, okay? Utilize technology. Well, to me, when I read this article, like, utilize technology was so Mary had a good reply to Miguel. Mary says, yes, what Miguel said, it's disrespectful to the rest of the band. Yeah. When you're not doing your part, I mean, we could draw all these different similarities, like 4 wheels on a tire and one of them's flat. You know, it's like, that's hard on the car. That's hard on the car. Yeah, it is disrespectful. Like, you got to put in equal work. You got to put in equal work. And I don't think I could say it enough. It's disrespectful to yourself as a musician to not have some kind of standard. But that's I just thought of this. It's like, have we been programmed to accept mediocrity? Like, it's okay to not be very good at what you do. Maybe that even goes back to James's comment about just because you're popular doesn't mean you're really good at what you do either. Sorry for this cough. I got to figure out, like I said, I'm not sure if I'm sick or this is an allergy thing. I'm hoping it's an allergy thing. Utilize technology. So to me, that's like, what's your business card? For me, social media is my business card, my Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, things of that nature, website. It's great marketing tools, not just for myself, but for networking with people. It's so easy anymore to get in touch with the who's who in the music business. Of anybody I've reached out to over the years, I think there's maybe been one or two times that nobody ever responded. Some respond really slow, some respond immediately. But I think just how you present yourself and how you ask questions or introduce yourself will affect a response. You don't want to fanboy out too much, and it's good to, I think it's okay to praise a musician that you like, but just don't like go so overboard you can't get around yourself. So yeah, utilize technology to get yourself out there. James says this list seems more like suggestions to become more known or promoted in trying to gain an audience, hopefully becoming popular. Yeah, this article, James, was heavily geared towards singers, and I think part of it is headline news, right? You got to have a catchy headline so somebody will pay attention to. But I guess part of the article is like being really good at what you do. This could tie into being successful, but it's who makes you popular? Well, the population, the people that are coming to see you is what makes you popular. Building a reputation. I would say that Midline was popular in the area for a while, due largely because of the radio play we received. And that felt good. It feels good when people appreciate you and recognize you. But and I think James probably experienced that too when Redstone was really hitting their stride. But Midline as a whole isn't like a groundbreaking musical entity. It was something that we really believed in and still do really believe in. But not guitar virtuosos, or it was just like the four of us as a whole became something that I think a lot of people liked. But it was by hard work and discipline that made that happen too. What does Mary say? Let's see here. Mrs. Fisher says, and it's obvious when you don't have the ability to play as well as the others versus if you're being lazy and not properly learning the song and doing your best. Yeah, I'd agree with that. That's got to be really, really uncomfortable, I would think, for whoever's not putting any work to the song. I would be embarrassed. I would be really embarrassed. There's been a handful of times where I've been asked to fill in for somebody at the last moment. Like, I'll get a phone. It hasn't happened in a long time, but in the past, I've had this happen where Man, we're supposed to start playing in the next 2 hours, and our drummer's puking his guts out at home. Is there any way that you can come play? Okay, so I've done a few of those, and I don't know any of the songs whatsoever. I might not even know who else is in the band. But that's where I'll really rely on the bass player. Like, the bass player can nod a tempo for me, and at that point, I'm just keeping time. The band has to survive the night. So I think that if you're a drummer that has a pretty good skill set, you can make that pretty survivable by just playing solid. Mary says, I believe there are a lot of factors becoming a popular musician. Yes, obviously that is the case. Network and collaborate, learn from those that are at the next level from where you are. And I think that kind of goes hand in hand with take advantage of opportunities, is getting around people who are better and better. And as a result, then you become more popular. You become an in-demand musician. Somebody that the phone, it's better if your phone's ringing than not. It's better that people are emailing you and texting you and reaching out than nobody is. Those are all signs that can tell you if you're doing the right thing or not. A growing audience would be a sign that you're doing the right things, that you're becoming popular. Miguel says political posts are always a productive way to get people to like you. And he says, joke. I'll get muted. Yeah, I stay out of the political circle. There was a post made 3 weeks ago or so that I commented in a very neutral, extremely neutral way. And even in my extreme neutral response, the attacks started happening. And I was like, I'm out. I deleted my comment. I'm like, I broke my own rule. I shouldn't have said anything. And some people just seem bent on having a bad time, having a bad day, and trying to make sure that you do too. And that's this politics thing is so divisive and ugly, and I don't want any part of it. Like I mentioned at the top of the show, being part of this playdrums.com, and they're looking at your social media. I think that's one of the things that they're wanting to know about is, are you being a divisive creep? Yeah, so just staying out of politics. I don't, unless you're in a band, like your band whole existence is based on politics, that's probably different. I've never been in a band like that, and I don't ever want to be. So I leave that. I don't want anything to do with it. I voice my opinion at the voting booth, and that's it. Jared says, my rule of thumb is to give more than you take. Yeah. Elevate the room, right? Elevate the room. I think I heard that from Kenny Aronoff, who's a big inspiration for me. He's so excited. He's got all this energy, and I think he's like 70 years old or so now. He's got to be 69, 70 years old, I believe. Great shape, great drummer, great attitude, looks good. Major stage presence, obviously has played with the who's who of musicians out there, and just that, like, his whole thing is elevate the room. What am I bringing to the situation that's going to make this awesome? That's kind of his attitude. Miguel says it wears on me. Let's see here. It wears on me so bad I am trying to get far away from it as I can without getting off Facebook. Oh yeah, talk about the political thing. So for me and Miguel, this took me a long time to kind of weed through. but was unfollowing people that were just so bent on those kind of things. Uh, I think we've all seen people post they've taken a stand on whatever it is that they're doing, and in their taking a stand, they say, if you don't agree with me, then delete me. Okay. If you say so. But I've deleted and blocked people, but not said anything about it. I don't have to make a post saying, "Hey, I'm Fred Fisher and I think this, and if you don't believe the same as I do, then go skip rocks." Or go kick rocks, or whatever the saying is. I just quietly like, oh man, I don't need this in my life, and I block and excuse me, or delete or get rid of or unfollow. And yeah, it took a while, but it really calmed down my Facebook news feed, was to just cleansing that out, getting it out of my social media stuff. And it still happens occasionally, but it's really manageable now, and I'll just snooze somebody for 30 days or unfollow them, or whatever the case may be. Let's see. Mary's responding to Miguel, says, it's starting to give me a lot of anxiety seeing people you thought were decent people in person attacking people on public posts like news pages, and now I feel like I don't want to be around them, like they're a loose cannon. Yeah, I agree. It's become so acceptable to just post and say whatever you want online because you're in the safety of your house, right, or your computer, and you're not face to face with those people. But then as soon as you become face to face with those people, knowing that they had said those things, it can be really an uncomfortable situation. So man, I just stay out of it. I don't care. I don't want to say I don't care, because I do, but I don't care enough to lose friends because of it. There's this, I don't know who the saying was, but a silent man doesn't mean that he's a weak man. A silent man is a man who's in control. So there you go. A silent man is a man who's in control. Let's see here. I think all of these things that I talked about that were I kind of ripped off from this. It was all, like I said, for vocalists mainly, is that all of these things are going to bring awareness to other musicians and to the audience as somebody who's really good at what they do, and gain notoriety and recognition and popularity from those kind of things. That's the path to becoming a pro musician, is to really care about what you do and how you present yourself. So there you go. Let's see, what else is it? I'm getting text messages. Oh, student. But thanks for joining me today. I really appreciate it. If you're on YouTube, I'm going to get to James's comment here in a second. On YouTube, I'm bombarding my YouTube with all my past videos, because I have a short window to get those all on there. James says, interesting that you brought up Kenny Aronoff. To you and I, he is a popular drummer musician. To most of the non-drummers, he is not known, even though they've heard him without knowing it. Dave Grohl, Tommy Lee, Travis Barker are drummers that have risen above being drummers to becoming popular in pop culture. Oh yeah, definitely, for sure. 100% accurate. Yeah, I think that kind of goes a little bit hand in hand, James, with your videos on overrated or underrated drummers. Like, what's the general population or general public's view or knowledge of some of these people is yeah, Kenny Aronoff is definitely a big inspiration to me. But, like Tommy Lee, for example, became a household name because of things that he's done outside of Motley Crue. Being arrested, different women that he's been married to, like Heather Locklear and Pam Anderson, and his trouble with the law, sex videotapes, those kind of things. I think people probably got to know who Tommy Lee is without knowing Motley Crue necessarily. Yeah, and then Mary, oh, I like this too. Mary says, and the drummer for Def Leppard got especially popular after losing his arm. Yeah, Rick Allen. Now that's a story that people get really interested in because, if you hear of a drummer losing an arm, you think, well, their whole life as a musician has come to an end, and so he had a really inspiring story to go along with that, and that was really as Def Leppard was really on the rise, and so people got really concerned. But yeah, I think you could just about ask anybody over the last 40 years if they know who Rick Allen is. They might say no, but do you know of the one-armed drummer for Def Leppard? They might say yes immediately. Yeah. Jared said, are we placing an importance on fame or musicality? All you need is one STD. Jared, it's a really great question. Are we placing importance on fame or musicality? And I kind of knew that this would be the crux of it all, because and James said earlier, it's like you can be popular, but you don't have to necessarily be really great at what you do. Now, I think that Dave Grohl and Tommy Lee and Travis Barker are all really great at what they do. Now, can they survive in multiple different situations? I don't know. Did you, Tommy Lee having all this popularity, had a reality show called Tommy Lee Goes to College or something like that. It was a pretty short-lived thing, and he was trying to play tenors in the marching band, and just it wasn't good. Yeah, so I think the focus is probably being really great musically, should be your number one focus. But if you're going to play music and perform, I think you also need to be an entertainer. So you not only should be really great at your instrument, but also be really great at entertaining. And I think if those two things go hand in hand, the result is going to become is that you're going to become known or popular with that. I used to live in a world or a way of thinking, especially when Midline was on the radio all the time. I never, in the heat of all of that, I never really thought that was going to go away. I thought, this is going to go on forever now that we're on the radio. It's just going to keep leading to more and more. That ended up not being the case. But I think a lot of us growing up in the MTV era, wanted to be famous. And I'm not excluding myself from that. I wanted to be famous too. Now I just want to take care of my family through music. And if some fame or notoriety or popularity happens as a result of that, I'm okay with that. I'm a person that doesn't mind being in the spotlight, I guess. You could take that however you want. But no, my focus isn't to, be, it's a good question, Jared. Are we placing an importance on fame or musicality? Yeah. Did I answer that question? But I think it's hilarious. All you need is one STD. And then, excuse me. Mary said, that's a good question. What does popular mean specifically? It might mean something different to all of us. I think popularity might be something different to us as individuals, but I think if you just look at the what's the word I'm looking for? When you're looking for shoot, the general public view of what makes you popular. I think that's what we're talking about here, is what the public thinks. Ooh, I love this. What Jared said. Nope, not that one. I clicked on Gary and not Jared. Gary says, I'm Rick James, damn it. Here's what I meant to click on. Jared says, notoriety comes when you commit to who you are meant to be. And I love that. Yeah. It's finding out who you are, right? Or who you're meant to be. Like I said, this article was directed towards singers, and part of it was finding your own voice. Singers finding your own voice. I think if you sing in cover bands, your voice is going to tend to try to mimic what you're singing and who it's by, because obviously you want it to sound similar to that. But if you're doing original music, it's finding your own voice. Now, I think with Midline, Anthony has his own voice. Now, for a long, long time, we dealt with this Creed comparison. People comparing Midline and Creed as like kind of one and the same. Midline had been around for a good 8 to 9 years before Creed ever appeared on the radar. It just so happens that Anthony's voice and Scott, I can't think of the singer's last name, from Creed, have very similar voices. It wasn't that Anthony was trying to sound like Creed. It's just that's what Anthony sounds like. So yeah. And James says masses. Yeah. The public mass is like what their view of popularity is. But Jared, I really like that comment. Notoriety comes when you commit to who you are meant to be. Man, I love that. I should take a picture of that because I like that so much. I don't want to forget it. I'm going to take a picture of my computer screen here. If it'll focus. There we go. Boom. Thanks for that. Anybody else have anything to add while my nose gives me trouble? Gary, it's good to see you here. Jared, when do you return, or are you back already? I need to know. I need to know these things. I'm going to get James Harrison live on this show, hopefully in April. And also I talked to Steve Fulton, who owns the Audio Lab, about being on the show. And so I'll be getting him in here soon as well. So it'll be cool to have James Harrison on. James is a well of knowledge when it comes to anything related to drums, drum brands, woods, drum heads, sticks, cymbals. If it's made for drumming, James knows a lot about it. I, on the other hand, I found what works for me, and I live in this very narrow little world, I guess, on I really like those drums, so I just play those drums all the time. And then, I like those, so I just... Tejano Outlaw, always enjoy your show when I get the chance to listen in. Appreciate your thoughts on music. Thanks. I appreciate that. There's always the replay if you come in late. You can just catch it on the replay. I would encourage you to watch it on YouTube if you don't mind. You could put the Drummergy Podcast into the search on YouTube and you'll find it. So there you go. Guys, thanks for hanging out. Jared, May. Wow, you're on an expedition like no other. I might have to use my Jared Halleck facial cutout more often if you're going to be gone that long. So at any rate, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate it. And next week, I don't know who's going to be here. Gary says he's driving. I have a few car moments, but I'm busy and self-promoting my oversaturated bands. I got to get Gary in here too. Gary, it means you got to get up early and come to me, buddy, and hang out right here. All right, guys, have an awesome week, and I'm hoping that I can get rid of this stuffy head quickly. All right, I'll see you next week. Bye.